Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mr. Creatine, and I'm sorry if my audio sounds a little bit bad. I'm using a headset microphone, but yeah, I could just be tweaking, and it could sound perfectly fine. Who knows? But anyway, let's get into today's story time. So this story time takes place back in summer of 2023, and that summer in particular for me was a very interesting time, and that was mainly because of the fact that I kept stumbling into like the most crazy fucking side quests like possible. I was just doing the most random shit this summer. I have so many stories from this point in time. It's just nuts, and this day was one of those days where I was just doing some crazy out of pocket side quest. And I was just sitting at home. It was a pretty hot ass fucking day outside, and I was just itching for something to do before football practice that day. It was probably like noonish at the time, and thankfully my buddy Joe hits me up. And you guys, if you've seen my videos, know Joe. He has the big ass basement we all like to throw parties in, the big ass pool we all like to throw parties in. And on this particular day, Joe just said, "Hey, do you want to come hang out and just bring like a bunch of people to come swim after you're done at practice or something?" I'm like, "Yeah, are you gonna come today?" Because Joe played football at the time, and he's like, "Yeah, I might come and make an appearance." And Joe wasn't really like all that like coming to practice that much. He ended up actually quitting like 2 months later, but he did show up from time to time and just hang out with us, chill out, participate a little bit. But you guys already know I did tell Joe yes that I was down to go hang out and swim after practice. So I was like, "Bet I'm down. Who do you want me to bring? Like, is there anyone in particular we should invite?" And he's like, "I don't really care. Just let me know before you bring him over to the house." And I was like, "Okay, bet. I'll let you know." And then I stopped texting him. I hit up my one friend Alvin. I was like, "Yo, do you want to do anything after football practice?" And he's like, "Uh, yeah, sure. What do we got to do?" And I was like, "We can go swim over at Joe's house. Maybe invite a few other people." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it." And then I was sitting there thinking, bet, you know what? It's not something to do before practice, but at least I have something fun to do after. And then we'll just fast forward to after practice gets over. And Joe did not come to this practice, but one of my other friends had hit me up while I was over at practice and I couldn't answer him. We'll just call him Cameron. And he had asked me if I was doing anything because he was over at his grandmother's house, and his grandmother lived fairly close to me. I think it's like a 5-10 minute walk away from my house. And I was like, "We're about to go swim over at Joe's house. Me and Alvin, do you want to come join us?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm down. I'll ride my bike over." And I was like, "Bet." Me and Alvin got to go get like swimming trunks and shit from my house and like towels and shit because Joe had a rule that you had to bring your own towels to his house. But none of us never really brought our own towels. We would just end up using some that he provided. So me and Cameron finish our discussion, and eventually me and Alvin do get back to my house. We both walk there, and we proceed to start getting stuff around. Alvin would just like borrow a pair of my shorts from time to time, or I think he might have actually brought his own this day. I just know that I for sure needed to get shorts and a towel from my house because normally Alvin was pretty well prepared, but that was besides the point. But I got all my shit, and then we met Cameron outside. He decided that he was gonna ride his bike over while we walked next to him, and he was just gonna ride his bike really slow, which I don't really get the point of at that point. Just fucking walk next to us, like you're just doing too much at that point. But anyway, we all ended up going over to Joe's house. It's like a I think 15-minute walk over there, 20 if you really dick off and take a while the whole time. But eventually, the three of us all pull up to Joe's house. Cameron leaves his bike by like this little tree Joe has next to his backyard, and we all walk up on Joe's deck, and he was just sitting there in a chair like he was anticipating our arrival or some shit, like he was the final boss. And we all just started talking, shooting the shit with each other for like 15-20 minutes or so, and eventually we all hop in the pool. And whenever we would swim around in Joe's pool, a lot of things would happen. We would all wrestle around, fuck off, and like do all that. We'd play Marco Polo. We had this one game I don't fucking remember the name of, but essentially two of you would just go in the middle of the pool, and the only objective was just to drown the fuck out of the other person, and then you would win. But yeah, we had that game that we played. We would just do all sorts of fuck shit in that pool, and I'd say probably like 2.5 hours goes by of us essentially just beating the absolute shit out of each other before we decide we're about ready to get out of the pool. And we all go up to the deck and we start drying off. We all end up going and like changing inside a little bathroom Joe had pretty close to the pool, like inside the house. And Joe proceeds to ask the three of us after we're all done changing, me, Alvin, and Cameron, if we're down to smoke a J or two with him, and none of us had weed at the time. And we told him this. We were all like, listen, we don't have any weed. We can't put any towards a J. And he's like, don't worry, guys. I got you. You've smoked me up before, MC. Like, don't even worry about it. And we're like, okay, thank you, bet. And we all go down to his basement where his room was, and he had all his weed. And he pulls out his little, like, weed box he had at the time, and he starts attempting to roll a joint. And let me tell you, Joe cannot roll a joint to save his life. And he tried not once but twice to roll this joint, and I can't particularly roll a joint either, so I can't say anything, but he was just having such a fucking hard time rolling these two joints. And eventually he's just like, you know what, guys, just take the weed, FaceTime you later when you smoke, let me know how it is. And we're like, okay, Joe, bet, thank you, like, do you not want to come with us or anything? And he's like, nah, you know how my mom is with like me being at your house and everything, because his mom does not like the area I live at, given it's like the trailer park and all. But we're all like, okay, bye. Thank you for like having us over. We'll talk to you later when we start smoking up. And we all proceed to start walking back to my house. And it was getting a little dark out at this point, and we're just three teenagers walking through our hometown with I don't even know how much weed we had on us at the time, but we had an amount on us, and we're taking that nice 15, 20 minute walk. We were all very much dicking around, so it was taking us a while to get back to my house. And when we get back to my house, we see something very interesting, and what we saw was empty trailer. And what empty trailer means is my mom was not at all home, and she did not tell me where she was going or if she was going anywhere. So this was just very shocking to me. But I wasn't one to complain when she wasn't going to be home. I was having two friends over, and I was about to smoke a bunch of weed. So I was like a kid in a fucking candy store, and me, Alvin, and Cameron all went inside my house and proceeded to start looking for stuff to smoke up with. And the main things that the three of us are all looking for are either cones or just materials to make a G station with, which surprisingly we could find fucking none of, which I even went through like my mom's little like smoke drawer where she would normally have cones at, cuz not going to lie, I would either ask her for some cones or steal some cones from her, and there was no fucking cones there at all. And all of us were just very disappointed that we're not finding anything that we can just pack and smoke with. So eventually, we're just looking for paper so we can try and roll it. And like I said earlier, I can't roll a J. And these were like Alvin's baby days. Like he could not roll a J to save his life. He could barely like smoke. He'd pop a lung like around these times. And fucking I eventually come across like this art project I made back in 6th grade. It was like a tinfoil dragon that I colored in with like marker or some shit, and I walk up to both Cameron and Alvin, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna try something real quick. And I start like peeling apart like the tinfoil from the tape and the paper, and I start rolling like a little cone with the tinfoil, and I'm like, do you guys think that we could pack weed in this and it would hold and we could smoke out of it? And they were both looking at me like, I don't fucking know. Like, we don't really know what we're doing. You're supposed to know this shit. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to try it. And one of the main issues we were finding with this method was the fact that the tinfoil would get too hot. So, as you guys can see in the thumbnail, we wrapped like a little bit of toilet paper around like the butt of it so we wouldn't burn the fuck out of our fingers. And surprisingly, this shit fucking worked. Like, we were all just sitting there passing the tinfoil art project like joint around, smoking up Joe's weed, and we'd almost forgotten to call him. Like, I had called him up real quick, and I was like, yo, we're smoking up your weed in my old 6th grade art project right now. And he's like, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like, what are you guys doing right now? I'm like, you heard me, we're smoking out of my art project right now. And he's like, I fucking wish I could be there right now. Like, I hope you guys are all having fun. I was like, thank you, man. Like, we're all having a great night. I hope you have a good night. We'll see you like tomorrow or something. And then we all got off the phone with him and just kept passing this little joint around. And I forgot to mention, we were all just sitting on my bathroom floor for some fucking reason. I can't remember as to why. We all just decided to hotbox my bathroom with this joint, and eventually we all start getting real high and real fucking tired. Like, it was some pretty nice weed, and I hadn't really been smoking like all that at the time. Like, this is before I really like was smoking consistently, and I was about ready to just pass out, and eventually I did, which apparently fucking Alvin and Cameron ended up sneaking out of my house later that night and getting lost in a cornfield while I was asleep. So missed out on that part of the lore, but overall it was a pretty good and awesome night. So if you guys liked and enjoyed today's story time, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what other types of stories you guys want to hear from me in the future. Like just drop down like different names that I've given people in the past, and I'll go back and like watch the video that they were in and think about other stories I got with them in it, and I'll tell those. But yeah, just let me know down in the comments. But I'll see you guys in tomorrow's stream. Bye.